Now, the bystander who filmed the police killing of an African American in the U.S. state of South Carolina says he fears for his life after his identity was revealed. Biden Santana says his life has changed in a matter of seconds and that people already know where he lives and works. He says he needs protection. Biden's comments come as protests and vigils over the death of 50-year-old Walter Scott at the hands of white police officer Michael Slager continue in the state. The killer cop was arrested and charged with murder after Biden's video revealed that he fired 8 shots at unarmed Scott. South Carolina protesters say they want justice for the victim.
Things in Charleston would have been worse than things in Ferguson had he not been arrested, if that video had been released. You know, everybody is human, but everybody is not capable of protecting and serving. And unfortunately, we have a lot of policemen that are trying to play judge and jury on the streets.
In another development, reports show that state police authorities knew about Slager's use of force. In 2013, a South Carolina black citizen had filed a complaint against Slager, accusing him of storming his house and tasing him in the stomach. Despite that complaint, Slager was allowed to stay in his job. Well, to discuss that further, we're now joined by Mr. Bruce Dixon of the Georgia Green Party, and he is joining us live now via Skype from Atlanta. Mr. Dixon, thanks for joining us here on Press TV. It's kind of odd, is it not, Mr. Dixon, that the very man who's brought this crime to the fore through his video now feels threatened?
It's not odd at all. It's typical. Who are the police? Police are men who do violence for a living. So the gentleman has every reason to fear for his safety and that of his family if he crosses the police, just like if you cross any other powerful gang in your neighborhood.
And you know, Mr. Dixon, one thing that strikes me is that Mr. Slager, the policeman who shot Mr. Scott, was known to have a track record of such behavior, and not obviously this extreme, but in the past he had this track record. So I'm wondering, for a country like the United States where, you know, rule of law is important, what does that say?
Well, rule of law is a joke. Men make the rules, and police help make the rules. They have a thing in state law in many states called the Policeman's Bill of Rights. We like to say in the United States, we get one Bill of Rights for you and me, but the police get 2 bills of rights. Police in many states are guaranteed the right to keep their behavior records, their disciplinary records, their track records with violent incidents in the public a secret. They're allowed to only have other police investigate them and not be investigated by regular authorities at times. There are a whole bunch of rights the police have that the rest of us don't have. So rule of law, hey, there it is.
Indeed, and finally, Mr. Dixon, you know, obviously police are meant to serve and protect, you know, the community, obviously, and obviously that's not been happening in many of the cases that we've seen recently. How then should this issue be approached going forward then?
Well, police, the fact is that police preserve the social order and they protect the ruling class and the interests of the ruling class. That's the fact. Anything else is an outlier, something that the power of the people may make happen, or the goodness of someone's heart or principles may make happen. But the core purpose of police is to do violence in the interest of those who rule any society. When we forget that, we get surprised by these things, which really should not be surprising at all.
Very well, we'll leave it there at that. But as always, Mr. Dixon, we do appreciate your insight. That was Mr. Bruce Dixon, who was speaking to us live via Skype from Atlanta.